Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and today I'm kind of happy because we're going to be doing an interview that we were going to do a year ago, but it wound up getting canceled on account of the coronavirus. People were not able to come, and so my guests today are people from the board of directors of the Women's Club at the Chautauqua Institution. Thank you for coming on, ladies.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sure. One person is still missing, but she's going to be showing up a little on the late side. But the person to my very left is Eileen Conroy, and she is in charge of marketing at the Women's Club. And to her left is Kelly Boyce Himebaugh.
Mm-hmm.
She is the president of the Women's Club. Yes. And to her left is Sharon McClymonds, who is in charge of, she's chair of the scholarship program. And Mary Pat McFarland is the one who isn't here yet, and she is in charge of programming. Okay, so Kelly, you being the president, yes. We'll start out with you.
Yes.
And now, did you have to get voted in? How do you become president of the Women's Club?
Well, it's a funny story. Well, not a funny story, but our past president, Barbara Brady, resigned in May, and last year during COVID, during a tough year of planning and do we open the club and not open the club, I was voted in as president.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was next in line.
I
actually.
heard that Barbara Brady was supposed to be coming in May last year to attend a wedding. Would you like to tell the viewing audience whose wedding that was?
I am not sure, but I think you're talking about Michael Hill, perhaps the president of Chautauqua Institution. Yes, and I think his wedding was delayed until November. If I'm
so
correct.
They did get married.
I believe
eventually.
so. I'm not quite sure. I think so, but if you don't mind, I would like to make a little correction. So we are the Chautauqua Women's Club, and we are our own 501c3 in Chautauqua Institution.
Oh.
So I like to make that point because we are a separate organization that's been around for 132 years. And we have a long history, and we have some wonderful, Eileen will talk about the history, and we do wonderful things with scholarship, but I just wanted to make that point. So.
Okay. Which one of you wants to do your talk now?
Well, should I? We had a little bit of an outline.
Okay.
But I think it's really about not a story, but I think it's a good idea to talk about how we all came to the club and how our dedication and our enthusiasm started. So I have been coming to Chautauqua Institution for 30 years. My husband grew up in Jamestown, actually.
Oh, really?
And so my kids, I hate to say this, people say, how long have you been in Chautauqua? But my kids are fifth generation Chautauquans. So, yes.
From your...
on my husband's side.
From your husband's side of the family.
Yes.
So when he was growing up, he spent a lot of time at the Chautauqua Institution?
He did. In fact, they had a house, he grew up in Jamestown, and they had a house in Chautauqua, which they were 20 minutes down the road, but yes. So
he went to Jamestown High School then?
He actually went to boarding school in Canada.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. But so I've been coming, and I was a young mother raising two children and coming to Chautauqua. And I was, at the Women's Club here and there, and I was an annual member, and then I maybe didn't, I missed a year or two, but I was asked to be about 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I was asked by Mary Pat McFarland, who you'll meet later, and she said, why don't you come over to the Women's Club and, just get to know people. And even though I was not going on a regular basis.
Oh, I see.
And I would go to the programs and meet wonderful people, but once I got involved, and it's like everything, once you participate and get involved, I just fell in love and found my place. Found my place, found my purpose in a sense. Every summer, and you know, it's intergenerational. I love being around interesting women. It was sort of a humbling experience, and I would even say that my position on the board is a little bit humbling. You're just, every summer, when you reflect back on what Chautauqua Women's Club has done, I grow every single year. And I walk away every summer going, wow, you know, you sometimes think you know it all or you have it all, and you know, and you don't. And you look at these amazing women and men, by the way. We have 800 members from almost all over the United States, almost every state, and we have over 100 men who are members. So it's
really?
not just
wow.
It's not just all women. It's men, and they love to come out and support what we do. But you know, the women, especially on the board, obviously we put our heart and soul into working for the organization. It's a community. And we like to say that we are the heartbeat of Chautauqua.
Oh, yes.
So,
yes.
you know, people come to Chautauqua Institution for various things and attractions, but we feel that we provide the community. And I think we do a really good job of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know whenever I'm over to Chautauqua in the summer, you know, I meet people from all over the world when I'm over there. Okay, Sharon, who is down at the other end of the table, did you want to talk about the scholarship program?
I would love to. So I've been involved with the Women's Club. This is my 4th year on the board, and my role has been chair of scholarship for these past 3 years. I am very passionate about scholarship because there is a huge need for it. Before COVID, the institution would have over almost 300 students come to hone their skills in one of the disciplines in the performing and visual arts programs here. And of those 300 students, over 80% required financial assistance to be able to attend.
Oh, wow.
So for the institution to be able to attract the best and most talented students, whether it's in dance, opera, theater, or art, or music, they needed to be able to offer the financial assistance to compete with the other you know, institutions out there that were trying to attract the same talent. So we, as the Women's Club, this is one of our pillars. It's part of our mission, is to raise money for life-changing scholarships for these students. And we do it in a number of ways. The most important, or not the most important, but a big way that we raise money is just from the actual donors. Individuals who are members of the Women's Club who donate money to the scholarship fund, and that money goes directly to the institution for scholarships. There's nothing taken out. We are all volunteers. We only have 4 paid people at the Women's Club, so everybody else is a volunteer. So there's no money that's taken away from those individual donations for scholarships. And then the other way that we raise money is through Artists at the Market, which is how I met you, Gail, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We have 22 artists returning this year. We are unable to have the Artists at the Market last year. But what's really lovely about that is it's handcrafted, individually made, beautiful art, from beaded jewelry to macrame. We've had pottery in the past, acrylics, note cards, you name it. And then a portion of the proceeds from all of the artists, 25%, is donated to the Women's Club to go towards scholarship. So that's another avenue for us to raise money. The third way that we raise it is we have a scholarship committee, and that right now is comprised of 23 very passionate and active volunteers, and they help to hold baskets at the various student recitals that are held throughout the season. So pre-COVID, we would have between 35 and 40 recitals, so we would have at least 1 or 2 volunteers at the door of either Fletcher or Sherwood Marsh or McKnight, wherever the wherever the recital is taking place, and they would have a sign there saying, please give generously, and people would just throw in money into the basket, and that money would go into our scholarship fund. So this year there's not going to be 35 to 40 recitals because it's a hybrid year, so there will be much fewer recitals, and unfortunately we're not allowed to do the baskets this year because of the COVID health regulations.
Oh,
but that will
I
take
see.
place next year.
Oh, okay.
So that will not be an avenue of funding. And then the last way that we raise money is just through our various events. We have a flea boutique that's behind the colonnade that's open 3 days a week, and those are all items, whether it's household wares or clothing, that get donated by people that don't need them, and then we sell those at a reduced, flea boutique price, and then that money from the flea boutique goes into our general operating, and then a portion of that the board designates for scholarship the following year. So we have lots of avenues to raise the money, and I'm very proud to say that we've been donating to Chautauqua Institution for scholarships since 1986. So this is our 36th consecutive year, and we have given over $1.7 million to the institution for scholarships. And with that money, we have helped over 1,300 students in those 36 years.
Wow.
So we're very excited. This year we made a pledge of $45,000, which we will be giving to the institution this summer.
Okay, that sounds really good. Okay, Eileen, now you're in charge of marketing, so
I do serve with a co-chair.
with a co-chair.
Michelle
okay.
Keene. Oh, thank you, Michelle.
Okay, do you want to tell us something about that?
Sure. First, how I came to Chautauqua, my husband was from Cleveland, and so I've been attending events at Chautauqua since probably 20 years, but I retired and we purchased a home on the grounds.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to a brunch that the Women's Club sponsored, and I felt very much at home. And another member reached out to me to see if I'd like to get involved, and that was really fortuitous. And so I've been involved. This is my second year on the board, and Kelly had a great idea that I should do some research about our history, because if you understand your history, you can better plan your future. I myself loved history when I was in college, but I'd love to talk to you a little bit about our history.
Oh, yeah. It's way over 100 years old, the Women's Club?
Yeah, the Women's Club actually was formally founded in 1889. And so 132 years, as Kelly alluded to. But in the course of the research, women were fundamental and in the forefront from the first assembly. And if anything, the formation was an acknowledgement of the importance of women. So there were speakers at the first assembly who talked about the role of women both in the home as well as in society. And from the beginning, they were industrious women because they had meetings at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday.
Every day?
Every
Oh,
day
my gosh.
in the Hall of Philosophy. And when Kelly mentioned growth, that's like in the Women's Club, the members' DNA. So the meetings were held 8 a.m. The programming topics, which Mary Pat can address in more depth, were fascinating because it was kind of like cleanliness in the home, things that you might expect, but also there was a topic of the role of the public lady in society, interest in working conditions for child labor and other employees. So it's fascinating doing the research. What I take away from the project that we call the Legacy Project is the Women's Club had influence both on the grounds of Chautauqua as well as in society. So I'm happy to talk about some of the examples of influence on the grounds as they begin supportive activities. Sharon's talked about the scholarships.
Well, when the Women's Club was first formed, it was a long time yet before women nationwide had the right to vote.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. And in terms of their influence on society, the Assembly, as well as the Women's Club, would feature panels starting in the 1880s. As we know, suffrage was formally ratified in 1920, but they had panels both for and against, and about the women's suffrage. And Carrie Chapman Cott, who was one of the key leaders, as well as Susan Anthony, they spoke prior to the passage. The other, in terms of society, it's like you can see the issues that the Women's Club would feature programming and panels to educate are key issues in society. The temperance movement, I alluded to working conditions for employees. Anna Pennybacker, who was one of our early presidents, was a forceful advocate for the League of Nations after World War I. And she became through the General Federation of Women's Clubs, she became a close ally of Eleanor Roosevelt. And in our clubhouse, you see photos, and we'll share photos of when Eleanor Roosevelt addressed the amphitheater. And Eleanor Roosevelt in 1933 invited the members of the Women's Club to the White House for a luncheon, and it was easily, I think, 900 members.
900 members came for a luncheon at
We
the
have
White
the photo,
House?
don't we?
Yeah,
we
we
have
do.
the photos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when did you want to start showing the pictures then?
I could start with Emily. The first photo was our first president.
Okay.
Emily Miller, who was a sister-in-law of one of the co-founders, Lewis Miller. And then to make Come Alive the history is the second photo is one of our original clubhouse. Oh, excuse me. Oh, no, that's one of our early meetings in the Hall of Philosophy, the Monday through Friday. So you see just the number and the...
You were really
and the,
packed in there.
yeah.
The women were a force to be reckoned with.
And think of that attire in the hot weather.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So-
Yeah, really. Yeah.
And then this was our original clubhouse,
Yes.
which was in the early 1900s. And then the building that is there today was built in 1929 at the height of the Depression. It's impressive. And the clubhouse that exists today inspired the development of the lifetime membership, which we might start looking at our dues. The lifetime membership in 1929 was $180, and I believe it's
$350 for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said that was the first clubhouse. What happened to it?
I think they wanted just a different structure, so
Yeah.
it was raised,
Right.
and then the new clubhouse was built on the grounds of Georgian style structure.
Right next to the Athenaeum.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I've talked a little bit about society issues, Eleanor Roosevelt, the League of Women Nations, the Equal Rights Amendment, and Mary Pat will, I think what I'm struck, and Kelly talked about growth, I always loved lifelong learning, and that's what the Women's Club brings alive, because they focus topics and they focus a balanced discussion at different points of view that I think particularly today is so important in our society, to build bridges across different points of view. I did also want to just address the influence that the Women's Club had on the grounds. So you saw the enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah.
And many times they would start things such as the poetry contest, which I'm sure influenced the Writers' Workshop, and the scientific and literary circle was started in the late 1800s. And what was really pivotal in the Women's Club is you can imagine all those members who would be there in the summer, well, they would go back and be active leaders in their communities through organizations such as the General Federation of Women's Clubs, and that would inspire people to join the Chautauqua Scientific and Literary Circle, who perhaps had not been on the grounds yet. So it was really a galvanizing force. And the last point I'd like to make in terms of, in addition to the influence on the grounds of programs and activities such as the poetry contest, in the 1930s, as we all know, the country was going through a lot of financial stress, and Chautauqua Institution endured financial stress. So there was a period of time that fundraising was important for the future, and we're very proud that Anna Pennybacker, through her association with John D. Rockefeller, raised over $30,000, and John D. Rockefeller stipulated that money that he donated be made on behalf of the Chautauqua Women's Club, and that grant I think it was the original Old First Night, that got them over the top in terms of
Save Chautauqua.
Save Chautauqua.
Wow.
So
Okay.
so it's been, our DNA, as Kelly addressed, is our mission, and it's been a force for continuity and a force for the future that we're very proud of and look forward to.
There's a picture up on the screen now.
That's Mrs. Pennybacker, who
Oh,
was
Mrs. Pennybacker.
Yeah,
Okay.
Anna Pennybacker B, and she was a real leader in Texas in education, and also in the General Federation of Women's Clubs. And she became president in the late 1920s and served for almost 17 years.
Yeah, she was wonderful.
Okay, our next guest has arrived. Her name is Eileen, no, wait a minute, Mary Pat McFarland. And you are in charge of programming?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm lucky enough to be in charge of programming, which, as you heard, is a pillar of the Chautauqua Women's Club.
Oh, sure, yeah. Would you like to tell the viewing audience about it?
Sure. So we have programs, historically, we've had programs during the week, as you heard. We had programs for years and years highlighting contemporary issues of the day at that time. And right now we call it our Contemporary Issues Forum. During a regular year held in the Hall of Philosophy. And the Contemporary Issues Forum wants to highlight issues in education or technology or politics, issues that are of interest to the wide society and of the current day. So it might be an issue about self-driving cars.
Oh.
Or it might be about education and education policy of the day. It might be something about war. We had a fabulous speaker talking about the different technology that's going to change the way that our military service and war around the world. So it's a wide range, trying to engage the audience in things that people are thinking about at this time. And we really try to present a very broad and balanced view also, so that the audience can really think through an issue in a 360 way. We have smaller programs at the clubhouse, and those highlight Chautauquans. So as you might know, there's so many phenomenal Chautauquans on the grounds. And so, for example, this week, Bill Bram is speaking, and he's a professor of environmental architecture at University of Pennsylvania, really a leader in the green building movement, and working with students from China. And so there's an international influence, and here he is on Chautauquan, and he actually happens to be a many-generation Chautauquan.
Oh,
so some are
okay.
Chautauquans that have been here, like me, for a short time, and some that have been here for many generations.
Okay, by a short time, how long do you mean?
Oh, 25 years, which is a very short time for Chautauqua.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. That's what I wondered about. Okay, so you're kind of like first generation Chautauqua participant.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's great. So so we highlight some of our programming with these phenomenal Chautauquans. We also have community events, and these community events are things like Mahjong and Bridge and Language Hour, and really inviting the community to our clubhouse. You know, the Women's Club is a club for everyone. So male or female, come to Language Hour and speak Swedish, because we're here in Chautauqua County, or speak German or French or Spanish in a casual atmosphere. Come and play duplicate bridge and earn master's points, and bridge has such a large following and is very important to many Chautauquans. Or come and enjoy Mahjong on our beautiful clubhouse, on our beautiful porch.
Oh.
So how can, come and enjoy and be a participant with the Women's Club, since we're open for all. So that's what I think about programs. Program really helps that part of our mission, which is to really be open for everyone. Every age, every stripe, every gender, come and enjoy the Women's Club.
Okay. Now there was an article in the Jamestown Post-Journal a couple of weeks ago about the Chautauqua Institution. I meant to bring that article in with me, and I forgot it. But it was, I can't think of the person's name either.
Randy Elf, maybe?
No, it was a woman.
Oh, okay. I don't think I read it.
Something, I think it had a lot to do with the amphitheater.
Well, we have a new amphitheater that was reconstructed.
Just a
and
few years
That was a few years ago, and that, there was a lot of controversy over that. But, so it is a hybrid year for Chautauqua and certainly for the Women's Club this year. So normally we have a lot of events in the house and outside, and since we do not have access to the Hall of Philosophy this year, for that Contemporaries Issue Forum, we have a tent out in our front lawn.
Oh,
and that
okay.
is where our speakers on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then we have a few other events going on under the tent, but that we have a tent for the whole month of July this year,
Okay.
which is great. So we look forward to it's getting put up on June 30th. So we're very
okay,
excited about that.
okay.
We've never had
Yeah.
a tent for a month, and we probably will never do it again. But it's a wonderful way to have the community come out and enjoy the programming.
Okay. And is the tent on account of the coronavirus, or?
We generally have tents when we have events. I mean, in the
Events.
past, we
okay.
would have, various dinners, and we do have some speakers, but we didn't really want a lot of people in the house when we were doing this planning, and that's part of the challenge for the board. We really work all year round.
Okay.
People don't realize that. We just show up and we have all these programs going on, but there was so much planning, and the planning changed so much. I mean, we had every plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and then we're just so lucky that it's opened up, but our planning that was being done was with COVID in mind.
So instead of having a TED Talk, we're having Tent Talks.
Tent
Oh,
Talks.
tent-
Exactly.
talks,
We should
yeah.
trademark, or it's not trademark, whatever that is. We should make sure that the Women's Club has
Has
Tent Talks.
anybody from the Women's Club ever done a TED Talk?
Our speakers have.
Oh, have they?
Yes, our speakers are
Okay.
generally,
People
well
who-
vetted and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have you ever done a TED Talk?
No, but I should research that for our legacy.
Yes.
project.
Another project.
Yeah. No, because part of the legacy was a lot of the organizations that people have been involved with, and also speakers through Mary Pat, like Sandra Day O'Connor and Jane Pauley, just within the last 25 years.
Yes, absolutely.
And I love that your program is called Fresh Perspectives, because I think it's a great timing for the Women's Club. We're reviewing our strategic plan right now. We're reimagining our strategic plan. I think COVID has taught us a lot. I think the demographics of Chautauqua institution and who comes in has changed quite a bit. And so we have to, change as an organization as well. And so we're going to be focusing on leadership, women leadership, going forward. And we are still reimagining that, and we're not quite sure what exactly that means quite yet. But we would love everyone to know who we are, because I think a lot of people come into the institution and we have these wonderful, excellent programming, but they're not sure. They think it's Chautauqua Institution and it's the Women's Club. And I think we really, I thank you for allowing us to be here today.
Oh, you're welcome. I'd like to see people who normally don't visit the Chautauqua Institution to start coming over for programming. And it's not just the concerts in the evenings. There's some educational things going on too. You can take classes over
yeah. I
here
love
in the
the
special
classes. Yeah.
studies department. I actually taught a class for 2 summers. I taught a macrame class for
sure.
2 summers.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, what's interesting too, the clubhouse is open to all, members and non-members. So you
Oh,
can
okay.
participate in things without being a member, but if you do become a member, you can help our cause of the mission and the scholarship. But it's a wonderful environment that often, I remember Kelly telling me, it's a way for as a first-time attendee at Chautauqua Institution, and I was reminded of it today when I was trying to leave the grounds and somebody just stopped. It can be a confusing experience if you're a first-time member in terms of what gate pass you need and when's what. And Kelly, I think, made a great point one time to me that the Women's Club really kind of provides a orientation to all who come in our doors as to what to benefit from, how to get around, what you don't want to miss at the Chautauqua Institution.
And I can remember somebody at one of our events came up to me and said, this is our first week here, and I am so happy that we got connected to the Women's Club, because now we feel like we just feel like we're part of what's going on. You know, it was just, it's really.
And as we all know, in the heat, you can get exhausted by signing up for too many activities.
Exactly.
And you can go in the Women's Club and just sit down, put up your feet.
Right.
So.
We have a beautiful
Well,
porch, but
I
we
know-
also have rentals. I just want to make sure.
Oh,
We have-
rentals. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we have a
rentals.
beautiful clubhouse, and we have 6 rooms technically, and we have a brand new house manager this year, Tim Jefferson, who is fabulous, and he's worked hard and getting the house ready. So, you know, anybody who's watching this or hearing this, please stop by. We would love to see you.
Okay, I
Yeah.
remember there was a party, and I was at the clubhouse a couple of years ago, and I was one of the people that was invited. It was a party late in the summer.
We had it for volunteers.
So
yes.
that was 2 years ago. We ended up having a lovely party at the clubhouse at the end of the season, and it was to thank everyone who'd been so generous with scholarship and all of our volunteers. So all of the artists at the market, you were all invited, and I was really pleased to see how many people were actually able to make it. That was a lot of fun. Of
It
course, then we
was.
had COVID, the black hole last year. So
Oh, yeah.
this year we will
Yeah.
definitely do something again towards the end of the season, just to thank everyone. And as
Oh,
Kelly
yeah.
mentioned, we are in the process, the board, of revamping and reviewing our strategic plan. But the one thing I can share with you is that our desire and our mission to support scholarship is not going to waver. That is steadfast,
Good.
and going strong, and hoping to be able to raise more and more money as the years go on through hopefully other venues and ideas that I'm trying to come up with.
Were students who were planning on coming to Chautauqua to study the arts last year, was that not something that did not happen?
So last year, there was no in-person programming on the grounds for any of the students in performing or visual arts. They did have online virtual programs for those students. So the cost of the programs last year was much less because they didn't have the dormitory and they didn't have the cafeteria to feed the students that they had to oversee and the cleaning of the rooms. This year they have as Kelly mentioned, they're doing a hybrid, so they are still going to have the various principals in person, but it will be in a reduced number of students actually participating, and they're going to have only one student per room instead of having them share for the COVID. And then they will deep clean everything and then start the next program. So right now, in week 0, this past week, before the institution opened, they had the Music School Festival Orchestra students here, and they'll be here from week 0 through week 3. Then there's a big deep cleaning, and then for week 4, I'm not sure who's coming, but I know the School of Dance will be here week 5 through 8. And I believe that theater was the only one. They have 9 students, and theater will actually be here for the 9 weeks. But everybody else has a staggered few weeks on the campus, and then they will deep clean everything for COVID and health issues. So next year we'll be back to hopefully normal,
Yes.
but this
I
year
hope
is
so.
still a hybrid.
Yes.
Yeah. Now we're down to a little over 23 minutes, so maybe we should get going with the rest of the pictures.
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
If you want to just pull up. So I talked about, this was the famous over 900 members in the White House.
Oh,
through-
this picture, was it taken in the White House?
Yes, when
Okay.
Eleanor Roosevelt invited, in her first year as First Lady, all the Chautauqua Women's Club to attend a luncheon. So you saw the women packed in the Hall of Philosophy.
They are
This was,
here, too.
This was pre-COVID, no social distance.
Exactly.
And then I'd be happy to introduce the other pictures. this was Eleanor Roosevelt again addressing in the amphitheater, and I think this was prior to being First Lady. Her first association with the Women's Club was when FDR was governor of New York.
Oh, okay.
So the relationship, and maybe this is an interesting fact, and we spoke about suffrage, and Eleanor Roosevelt, at least in the history that I read, was she wasn't an advocate or against suffrage. She was kind of not an advocate or neutral. And Carrie Chapman Cott really started to cultivate Eleanor in terms of women's leadership. Mm-hmm. Carrie Chapman was an early women's suffrage leader, and after suffrage, she began the League of Women Voters in 1920, and she really inspired Eleanor to become active in the League of Women Voters. So it's interesting how, pathways in life.
I know. Yeah. Well, Eleanor Roosevelt, it's my understanding she did a lot for the United States, for the country.
Oh.
Didn't she have programs to help create jobs?
I know she probably, through the ear of her husband, influenced a lot of the New Deal, and then she would travel. I can remember the quote, "I'm my husband's legs because he cannot walk."
Oh,
and then after, in her, as a widow, I think she was a delegate to the first UN, and she was active in the United Nations, and she had a column. That's what, as a child, I can remember being aware of Eleanor Roosevelt. And, interestingly, FDR died when he was only 64 years old. So she had 20 or 25 years more as an active influence on society.
Oh, yeah.
I have a great quote that I found, and
Okay.
if you don't mind, I'm going to read it from my phone here.
Okay.
But when I hear influence, and I hear anyway, and this is Carrie Chapman. May the Chautauqua Women's Club bring a blessing to every community in the land wherein a member resides. Why stop there? Keep on until the entire world has felt your influence as a club.
Wow.
And I thought that was so
beautiful.
Isn't that? It's
and so fitting.
And it talks about from the very beginning to now, we are involved in the Women's Club, and then we all go back to our, our respective homes, and change. And that is part of what we need to do now is go beyond the gates and get
excellent.
Chautauqua Women's Club with leveraging our history and our legacy to go out into the world, and even globally we can do it obviously through technology now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought
well,
that.
are all
excellent.
four of you people who are not year-round residents at Chautauqua? All four of you, do you live somewhere else the rest of the year?
We're all homeowners of Chautauqua Institution, however we live elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay, all four of you live elsewhere the rest of the year. Okay.
But we come back and forth.
Yeah.
I did my COVID here. I say my COVID year. We were in we left Connecticut and got my girls out of New York City, and we all were here in Chautauqua for 9 months or so.
Okay. And you're from Connecticut also, right, Sharon?
I am. So we live in New Canaan, Connecticut, and we typically come during just the summer season. I have 2 little dogs that hate to travel, so I have to give them doggy Xanax to get them here.
You could have actually brought them to the studio if you'd wanted to.
Well, maybe we'll do another interview and I'll bring them.
We are friendly to animals.
Well, I did bring them to Artists at the Market 2 years ago. I will do that again this year.
Yeah. We have a couple of times a year. I have the Northern Chautauqua Canine Rescue. Somebody from there and a dog will come in to represent that. And then we've had cat shelter people in here. Elaine Cafflish, who who Sharon knows anyway, was here with another friend of hers one time, and they had birds with them. And
we should do an animal day at the Women's
we
Club.
We could do bring your pet. Bring your pet. Pet social on under the tent.
Exactly.
Yeah. And where are the two of you the rest of the year?
Just 18 months ago, since I'm retired, I live in Fort Myers, Florida.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Which is why she looks so beautiful in her tan. She's coming to the summer already tan.
play a lot of tennis, and I did become active actually through the research. I read about the League of Women Voters, so I just joined the League of Women Voters, and I was on a conference call at 9 to 10. So the tradition of...
Well, you know, it's funny that you brought that up because I work as an election inspector on election day.
Okay.
And Justin and Chris, who you've met, Chris works at the Board of Elections full-time, and his brother Justin, who's over there by the camera, he does part-time work for the Board of Elections.
No, that's fundamental.
So,
yeah. And the League of
sorry.
Women Voters, I'm going to tread on Chautauqua Women's Club time, but it's nonpartisan, much as the Women's Club. Important. So thank you for the support you give to the smooth running of elections.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoy it. It's a really long, tiring day, but I enjoy it. It's interesting. It was even more interesting this past November because we had to wear masks all day. We had like sneeze guards set up and between us and the people we were getting signed in and everything. So we had to keep disinfecting everything all day, and yeah, it was kind of a long, tiring day. But actually, we were not as busy as the 2016 election because by this time we had early voting, so people could go ahead of time over the course of, I think it's 10 days to do that if they don't want to wait. So I do that myself because it's kind of hard when you're working on election day to carve out time to vote. So now that we have early voting, I go and do that ahead of time.
Terrific.
So, well, there,
And Mary Pat,
Yeah,
right?
she's
We
from-
want to.
Yeah, so I live in Philadelphia, and I think one thing is that several of us have kind of local connections, so we are kind of brought back to this area, you know, and feel like it's home. Like I grew up in Eden, for example.
Oh,
which
did
isn't
you?
too far from
Okay,
here.
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
you know, my sister was a student in the School of Music, and that was my first introduction to Chautauqua, coming and visiting her when she lived on the full fourth floor of the Glen Park. You know, and just really, you know, felt it was a wonderful spot and was glad to come back. So I think there are local connections for many of the people that come here year round. I know Kelly's husband is from Jamestown, right, and Sharon's from Erie. So
My husband's from Erie.
Erie,
He's from outside Erie.
But you're from
And I grew up in Corning.
Corning.
Oh,
So I'm
you
just
grew
down.
up in
I'm just
Corning.
down Route 17. Well, now 86. But yes, I grew up in Corning, and my parents first started coming to Chautauqua when my dad retired from Corning Glassworks. So they bought their house back in '87. And they were on the north end of the grounds. And so I used to come, I've got two daughters, and I would come with the two girls every summer and stay with my parents. So when they were young, they went to the children's school, and then as they got older and outgrew the children's school, they went down to the waterfront and went to the Boys and Girls Club. And both of them did that. So I guess they're third generation Chautauqua.
yes.
So
yes,
you
they
know
were.
how she got involved? I was standing in line with her at the post office,
Oh,
and I hooked her in.
Yeah.
So
Yes, I got hooked in. Couldn't
That's
say
how
no.
That's how it all happens. But I do want to just say, a lot of people say, well, how can I support the Women's Club? And the best and easiest way is to become a member. It's very easy. You can go online to Chautauqua Women's Club, no apostrophe, chautauquawomen'sclub.org. And there's a join tab. You can join on a couple different spots. We're actually doing a membership campaign as we speak, so we're always looking for new members. But what that does is it puts you on our list, and then you can get all of our. You'll get e-blast, and you'll be kept up to date on all our activities.
now there's no rule about people having to live part of the year. People from outside of the institution can join the Women's Club.
Oh,
then.
we are a separate national, like we said, we have almost 800 members and almost from every state. So we have a lot of members that joined as a life member and honestly have never come back to Chautauqua. So we still have, it's a very large and diverse group of people. So.
Okay.
And through Kelly's leadership, we have year-round programming now.
Yes, so that is one of our, in our strategic plan.
yeah.
We plan to go, rebrand ourselves outside of Chautauqua institution and have year-round programming. And, we started because of COVID, we just wanted to stay connected, and we did Zoom meetings, and so we've learned a lot, and that is just the beginning.
We have young members too. So 2 years ago, when we were very active before COVID, we had a couple of life members sign up their granddaughters as life members.
Okay.
So I think one was age 9 or 10, and the other little girl was maybe 12, and they became life members as a gift from their grandmother 2 years ago. So
how
we have
nice.
all ages, and I think the sense of community is really what keeps us coming back, because I have women friends from their 30s to their mid 80s, and it's just such
90s,
a great
yeah.
of all age, and it doesn't matter. You don't even think about the age, because we're so busy with each other and learning from each other and spending time with each other, and it's just soul filling. I just love it. It just fills my well every summer.
Well, we better get back to the rest of the pictures.
We could be here all day.
Yes.
We'll be ordering lunch soon.
So the next picture is, as noted, the biennial convention of the General Federation of Women's Clubs. So we were talking about the influence both on and off the grounds, the fact Anna Pennybacker met Eleanor Roosevelt through the General Federation of Women's Clubs. It would make an interesting program, I think, just the impact women's clubs and how they continue to have an influence, because there could be an association of women clubs that it's only social, and as you can tell from our conversation today, it's much more than that.
Oh, yes, definitely.
So then to support the scholarship and the program, this is an example of the Flea Boutique that I think it was probably maybe 15 years ago.
Probably.
So, donations are received, and then we sell it at Flea Boutique prices, and it really is pricing at all price points. You can get great things for your home, particularly if you're, starting up a second home and you need china, linens, as well as great jewelry.
I see a wicker chair there.
Yeah.
Yes, and I do want to note that what we end up doing, it's very funny. So the Chautauqua community has been great at donating things. So if they sell their house, they call up the Women's Club. We've got this, can we bring it down? Or, but I can tell you, Sharon yesterday arrived, and she had a car packed full of everything for the Flea Boutique. But my husband, he can't stand it. I literally put garbage bags of clothing and things, and we just sold our house as well. And so people just donate to the Women's Club, and I want to say thank you to the community, because without them, and we raise quite a bit of money for Chautauqua, for the Women's Club, and so I just want to say thank you. I want to encourage people, if they're listening and they have never thought of donating to the Women's Club, we have a list of things we do not take, but we take everything almost.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I know. I know the Northern Chautauqua Canine Rescue has what they call their doggone good yard sale every year, and they it's around about the last weekend in July, and they will not take mattresses,
yeah, we won't either. Yeah, that kind of
clothing. They say for some reason at their yard sale, clothing does not sell. They won't take that, and they won't take books. And I think because it got to where they used to take books, but then people weren't buying them or something. I don't know. So anyways, there's certain things that they don't take.
Well, also, 2 years ago, we had a lot of linens that were left over, and so we donated, lovely bed linens and kitchen towels and bath towels that were donated and in very good condition. And where did we gave that to an organization in Jamestown?
In Jamestown, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have, you can find some wonderful, we have a lot of members who, not members, but just people in the community who dress very well, and they bring their wares, and you would not believe the bargains you can get. So and things go for like $7, and you know, we're talking, you know,
Really,
boutique
really,
prices.
really
Yes,
nice
yes,
stuff
yes.
for $7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like a consignment shop.
That's
in a way.
really,
It is,
but
it
we
is.
call ourselves a boutique.
When we
Yes,
first-
flea boutique.
When we first bought our house here, my mother-in-law came to visit, and I did not have a coffee scoop to measure the coffee properly, so I knew exactly where to go get one. And of course, I went running, took my bike down to the flea boutique when it was open, and I got my little coffee scoop for 25 cents.
Oh, yeah.
And I still have it.
It's people love it. It's a big deal in Chautauqua, our flea boutique. Yes.
And it's, where is it located again there? Behind the Colonnade
to the,
building?
if you're looking at the Colonnade building, to your left, like there's a little parking lot. So we say behind the Colonnade, but it's really to the left of the Colonnade.
It's to the left of the Colonnade.
If you're looking at the Colonnade,
Okay,
yes.
and it's once a week, did you say?
3 times a
It's
week.
3 times a week.
Oh, 3 times a week?
Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday happens to be the free day for Chautauqua too. So we certainly
Right,
encourage-
right. Okay, for those of you who, in the viewing audience, who might want to come over on Sundays when it's free, you might be able to get some good bargains at the
12 to 2.
Yes,
12 to 2, for
Also-
2 hours on Sundays.
And also Artists at the Market on Sunday.
Artists at the Market
12
on
to 4,
Sunday,
up by the
12
main
to
gate,
4,
and you can
yeah.
get beautiful handcrafted wares up there.
Right, right.
And see Gail.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Right.
So-
Okay, so here is.
Oh, so this is from the Strawberry Festival.
Oh, it's a strawberry festival.
Which is another activity to support fundraising, and I'm not sure when this photo, but probably in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Oh.
A child serving strawberry
Oh,
dessert.
you don't know who that is in the picture?
No, no, it was just a general, a future member of the, or maybe current member of the Chautauqua Women's
Yeah,
Club.
it could be.
So this could be anywhere within the last 30 years, then,
Yeah,
this picture.
but the point was, it was the Strawberry Festival. This was the poetry contest, so in the center is Anna Pennybacker, who began as president.
The
in
one that's sitting
Yes.
in a chair?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there were, I think, winners of the poetry contest, or perhaps sponsors of the poetry contest. And then this, I think, is, not exactly sure if that's.
Looks like a game, like a lawn
Activities,
game.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, some sort of a lawn game. It almost looks like dominoes.
It looks like dominoes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then I think one of the last, this is another fundraiser from the Women's Club. People a little bit more dressed up. And I think one of the last.
Yeah.
Oh, go
And
ahead.
those are petals, not garbage on the ground.
You know, yeah, I'm glad you said that. Because I was,
Those are petals that
I
would
was-
fall into the
I
ground.
was just
yes.
wondering about, what is that on the ground? You know, it didn't sound like something that would be at Chautauqua, like
Exactly.
waste paper or
Exactly.
anything.
Then this was a formal meeting an annual meeting of the Chicago Women's Club. And
And that's inside the clubhouse
Yeah,
in our first
there.
floor living room.
yeah, so.
Did you say the Chicago Women's?
Oh, no, Chautauqua, sorry.
Oh,
Women's Club.
okay.
Sorry, thanks for editing.
Chautauqua Women's Club, yeah.
And here's the last picture, which is a scholarship winner, a scholarship recipient greeting the conductor of the Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra.
This is kind of a vintage picture also,
Mm-hmm.
isn't
Yeah.
it?
The outfits
Yeah.
they're wearing.
Yeah, no, I want to thank John Schmitz of the Chautauqua Archives, who's been really so helpful to me on the Legacy Project and then organizing these photos to share with you today, because as everything visual makes come alive, the history.
And I think it's worth saying that we just are very grateful for all the past members of Chautauqua Women's Club, the board, all these passionate women who really have worked so hard to get us where we are. And I think it's really important to always, through our legacy, look back and thank the women that were responsible for just creating such a wonderful organization. And so now we are responsible for bringing it, forward, and we're looking forward to doing that. So
Yeah. And for members of the community, 2 programs that might be of interest Hopefully all are, and they're all welcome, and please consider getting a day pass or an afternoon pass to come to the programming. Emily Sanfilippo from the Archives is doing a program on suffrage in women in Chautauqua Institution, but very much in Chautauqua County. And so I think that connection with the county that you've mentioned several times is really important. And also Sharon Anderson, the CEO of the hospice, is going to come and talk about very important work that the hospice does in Chautauqua County.
I interviewed her, I think it was the Saturday between Christmas and New Year's a few years ago. I interviewed her here on Fresh Perspectives. That was a pretty interesting conversation.
Absolutely. So any information, and trying to say, you know, these issues of Chautauqua County are the issues of the institution, and certainly issues of women all over the world, and women's clubs all over.
And you can find our programming and our activities on the website. So it's chautauquawomensclub.org.
Yeah. Were there any other things? We're down to a minute and 2/3 of a minute. Was there anything else you wanted to make sure to get out to the viewing audience?
One thing I thought of, maybe just to state the mission, we've addressed the pillars of the mission.
Yeah, well, so we provide innovative programming, dynamic events, and life-changing scholarships to students. And that really
That's your
sums it.
mission statement.
That is our
That's our
mission
mission.
statement, and we have been steadfast, word of the day is steadfast, on that mission from the beginning till present. So we're very, very proud of that.
And how many years again?
132.
132. Wow. Wow.
So, well, thank you so much for having us.
Well,
this was a great opportunity for us. So
and thank you for agreeing to participate on an episode of Fresh Perspectives. I'm sure that the viewing audience is going to really appreciate seeing this. I don't think a lot of people that live in Chautauqua County really know just what the Chautauqua Institution is all about. But they might come more often now that they've heard some things from all of you.
The Women's Club welcomes them. They can stop by any time, and we will help them figure Chautauqua out.
Okay.
Chautauqua Institution.
And you can get maps
Yes, at the Welcome Center.
at the
there's
Welcome
maps, yes.
Center that help you find your way to the Women's Club.
Yes. Well, just go to the lake. Go right to the lake. Don't go in the lake, but go to the lake. And we are next, so if you're looking at the Athenaeum with your back to the water, we are on the left-hand side.
Okay.
We're the
But
white
if you're
building with the pillars.
If you're coming down the hill, don't you go over under kind of a...
Yes, that the Jane Street.
Yeah,
so we have an
Jane
entrance on the
Street.
Jane Street. So if you come down and you do go under the underpass of the Athenaeum, but we are a beautiful white pillared house, and we welcome all.
Okay, well, I'm so happy you could come on today. We've been waiting a whole year to do this episode.
Actually, two, you invited us in 19.
Oh, that's right.
2019.
We've been
You talked to
waiting
me
2
about doing
years
this,
to
and then
do
we were
this
unable to do it.
episode.
Yeah.
And I'll see the rest of you in the viewing audience on the next episode, and try to get over to Chautauqua this summer.